Good evening. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for September 18th, 2024. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Human,
Here.
Vice Chair Koschel,
Here.
Commissioner Quinn,
Here.
Commissioner Barrichello,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez, Commissioner Gola,
Here.
Commissioner Schwartzer.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez did call us to say he wasn't going to be here. Before this meeting, we had a consent agenda where we went over the items other than item number 2, which is going to be for a full hearing. Staff, there was one additional stipulation, I believe, for item number 4. If you can read that into the record, I'd appreciate that.
"50% of the trees planted along the arterial street shall be a minimum of 36-inch box and be a minimum of 12 feet in height at the time of planting."
Thank you. I also remiss that we didn't do the pledge, so if the vice chair could lead us in the pledge, appreciate that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to go to the audience. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to have any questions answered on any of the items 1 through 7, with the exception of number 2? Okay, I see none. What's the commission's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agendas items 1 through 7, except number 2, with the added stipulation as read in by staff on item number 4.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Just for the record, I will be voting no on item number 4. It doesn't have anything to do with the architecture. It has more to do with the land use. I've been pretty consistent over my years of being on council and commission that I don't think this is a great use for a major corner. So with that, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Item number 2. Lauren, you're up for this one?
Let's see if I can get it to work.
Yeah. Well, you seem to be the one that was fixing them earlier, so hopefully that you got it.
All right. Thank you, Commission. Action item number 2, PLH 2423, the district downtown. The subject site, it's located at the northwest corner of Arizona Avenue in the Santan 202 freeway and is approximately 44.7 acres large. Before I get into the request, I'm just going to go through the background of the property. The property was originally zoned in 1987. It was zoned from AG1 to planned area development for a mixed-use development of office, retail, hotel, and multifamily. If you look at the plan, the multifamily on the far left side of the screen is the existing multifamily that built. When that built in 2000, the property vested. The site plan before you shows a mix of retail with residential at the immediate corner, office buildings in the middle, and then along the Santan 202 freeway, a convention center with hotel and office. Fast forward to 2007. The developer came and requested to rezone the property, again allowing for mixed uses with a mix of office, retail, and hotel. At this time in 2007, a mid-rise overlay was requested over the entire property to allow for buildings up to 120 feet, which is consistent with our mid-rise overlay policy, because it's adjacent to a freeway. Under this proposal, there were 2 65-foot pylon signs approved along the freeway. There was a phasing plan. Every building not indicated on the site plan before you was to be developed under phase 1. The following phases, phase 2 would be the properties indicated in yellow, and then phase 3 would be a future hotel in the center of the property, as well as the red property indicated along the west property line. In 2010, there was a time extension approved to continue to extend the zoning. Next, in 2012, there was a revision to the preliminary development plan. They weren't changing any of the land uses, but they wanted to revise the site plan. If we look at the previous plan, they relocated the parking garage to be more central within the property, as well as they moved the hotel closer to Arizona Avenue at the southeast corner. They were proposing a 7-story hotel. Within this PDP, there was a phasing plan. The first phase stated that 12,000 square feet of building must occur. Under phase 2, no more than 4 pads could be constructed prior to the first office building being constructed. And then for the last phase, it said no more than 6 pads to be constructed prior to either a second office building being constructed or the hotel. Of most recent, in November of 2022, the property owner amended the zoning to allow for mixed use, again allowing for office commercial, as well as adding a multifamily residential component to make it a true mixed use development. It provided a couple of parcels of multifamily, offices, mixed use buildings, commercial, a hotel, and a parking garage. Under this request, there was a request to reduce the setbacks to 30 feet from the required 50-foot requirement along Arizona Avenue and Pecos Road. This was approved. There were some phasing plans with it. The site plan before you, anticipated under phase one, would be the most western parcel of multifamily, would develop with the two offices in the center of the property. Um, Stipulations were added at Planning and Zoning Commission stating commercial development must occur before any multifamily on the first phase. Before the city council meeting, additional language was added stating that a certificate of completion for the office buildings must occur before or at the same time before parcel 5 could develop as multifamily. The other stipulation that was added at Planning and Zoning Commission was all commercial development adjacent to Arizona Avenue, excluding the mixed-use building, must occur prior to the second phase of multifamily development. Before council, additional language was added stating a certificate of completion for the commercial property must occur before a permit could be pulled for the multifamily. So we come before you today with a request. The request is to rezone the property to planned area development, or rezone from planned area development for mixed uses, including multifamily, office, commercial uses as permitted under community commercial C2 type uses, to rezone it to planned area development for mixed use development, including multifamily, office, commercial uses as permitted under the C2 type uses, and automotive and truck sales. The property continues to request a mid-rise overlay allowing for buildings up to 120 feet, as well as there's a preliminary development plan for site layout and conceptual building architecture. That was a lot to read, so let me break it down for you. So on the left side of your screen, there's the 2022 approved plan, and then on the right side, you see the request before you today. To walk you through some of the changes, on the current proposal, the multifamily along the western property line is requesting to be a surface park development, where previously they were requesting to be a wrapped garage development. Since additional parking was required, they ended up utilizing the full western property line. Other changes included the alignment of the inner streets within the property. Previously, it was very linear, where now we have a curvilinear road coming from a signal from Arizona Avenue, coming into a focal open space part, which would slow traffic down. The development, as you can see, there's a breakdown. They're still proposing 2 multifamily developments. There's not a reduction in the amount of units. However, there is the surface parked development has reduced the density. Previously, it was 44 units per acre. Per the current request, it's 33 units per acre, which is more consistent with the existing conditions out there. Directly to the west is a surface parked 3-story multifamily development. As well as in the new plan, there's a reduction in office. The office has been relocated to the north along Pecos Road. 2 office buildings, which could also allow for medical office if parking permits. We do have commercial at the corner of Pecos and Arizona Avenue, and 2 hotels. The other part of the request is to change out a portion of the commercial to allow for automotive sales, trucks and sales. A zoning stipulation was added to permit only for franchise dealerships. It is a compatible land use as it's adjacent to a freeway, so it could be considerable. As well as the proposed phasing plan. Once a permit is pulled for any of the buildings, initially all landscaping along Arizona Avenue and Pecos Road would be required, as well as the internal road within the development. Under the next phase, it could be a combination of the multifamily along the western property line, the commercial at the immediate corner, and one of the two hotels. As for future phases, the applicant is requesting future phases, or that the previous stipulations be removed and that future phases occur as the market demands. Please note that the second phase of multifamily, the garage wrap development at the center of the property, would require a separate PDP to come before Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. Staff will be reviewing all of the developments administratively, meeting a high quality of design of exhibits shown within the development booklet, as well as ensuring that all of the uses are connected through pedestrian tree-lined sidewalks. Just to show you some of those examples, here are some of the offices that could occur. You see a high percentage of glazing used with steel and columns and landscaping used. The proposed architecture would carry over to the commercial buildings, still using that brick and the steel and the exaggerated parapets. As for the surface wrapped multifamily, still carrying in line with the same shape of the roof lines, using the same material, while adding a fresh modern approach to it. A neighborhood meeting did occur on July 10th. 4 residents attended with general questions about traffic, the proposed uses and timelines. As of today, staff is not aware of any opposition or concerns to the request. Per our general plan, the subject site is located within the neighborhood designation, which permits for higher densities along arterials as well as it's adjacent to a freeway. The property does also fall within a growth area of the downtown Chandler. Currently, I believe last Planning and Zoning Commission, there was a downtown Chandler regional update for that area plan. This property does not fall in it currently, so it is only held to our general plan. Planning staff has reviewed the request and has stipulations in place regarding the types of uses that could occur. For example, the dealerships being limited to a franchise license, discussing densities permitted and uses that could occur within the offices, as well as 21 preliminary development stipulations stating the intent of the design, and if there is a conflict or a disagreement between staff and the developer, that it could require the project to go back for a preliminary development plan. The project is consistent with our general plan and staff recommends approval. And I open up the floor for any questions.
Thanks, Lauren. Question, the plan approved in 2022 has stipulations in there in terms of timing that retail gets built in that first phase, as well as the multifamily at the same time. So you don't have a situation where we ended up with just the multifamily and the rest of it sits. Did I understand that on this new plan that stipulation goes away and multifamily could be built without anything else being built?
Well, as depicted in the development booklet, when the multifamily pulls a permit, it's anticipated that a portion of the commercial and a hotel would occur at the same time.
Occur or have a permit pulled? So the last time it was CFO, it was all stacked, so they go together. So one couldn't just pull a permit and the other one goes all the way out and the permit gets pulled and nothing ever happens. Does this change that, where the permit could get pulled, but yet not, the retail would not get built and multifamily would be okay to be built?
That's a great question. And probably best directed to the applicant to understand their phasing plan.
But
As it,
to staff though, my question is, based on this new proposal versus the proposal that was approved 2 years ago, would they be in sync that permit, building, CFO, CFO?
Chairman, historically, we've had phasing plans as a component to every PDP that we've ever processed. When they've indicated that in phase one there will be this office building and this multifamily building, we have implemented that by saying we won't issue a building permit for the multifamily until you get the building permit for the office. They have to be basically done at the same time. We have never gone to the inspection for inspection, C of O for C of O. We never went that route because they just travel different development construction paths and timelines. The uncertainty behind that is what drove the stipulations that are currently in place on the property right now. And it is submission, approval, inspection, C of O. And that's what's been problematic for starting development, because one side can't be linked to the other. So we have never historically, a staff, implemented a phasing plan in the means that the current STIPs are, except for what this project was approved for in November 22.
And that came through commission and council when we had stipulated, and then council really changed and added additional steps on that whole phasing part, correct?
That's correct. And the concern is that a permit, they could submit for permits, pull the permits, but never actually construct it. And it was, well, what would staff do? At that point, they've completed their obligation for pulling a permit. We don't run out there and watch them that way.
Okay. And this does change that, this is taking the stipulation away, correct?
It does. It simply would take it back to what we've historically done for implementation of phasing plans.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner?
Yeah, through the chair, same question on the phasing plan. Phase one is stipulated, but I guess I'm just trying to understand how staff looks at phase two. You got multifamily, commercial in phase two, and 2 hotels. How do you really determine what's phase two? What, like, the multifamily comes first? Okay, that's phase two. Can that complete before the hotels are developed? Again, I just don't know how this actually gets applied in practice.
If let's say that we roll the clock back to 2018 and this came in and we weren't trying to implement it in the way that the current approved steps were, we would look at this and say a permit would need to be submitted for the area highlighted by phase two, as well as buildings. And they're individual buildings, and they more than likely would have a different franchisee owner for different things. So we would anticipate a larger site permit to come in and probably building permits. And we would see the same thing on the hotel site. We would see the larger permit for the whole piece encompassed in that area, and a building permit for a hotel, and then the same thing on the multifamily. So we have phasing plans that look a lot like this historically over the years. That's how we would implement it.
Kevin, can you answer a question on I'm going to go to Commissioner Quinn in a second. The second multifamily is not listed as a phase. So could that, based on this, the multifamily gets built to the west and then they come back right in and ask for the PDP on that middle piece? Or they would have to have a lot of this other stuff done? I'm just kind of curious because it doesn't say which phase this is.
Sure. It would be subject to its own PDP, which would establish its own phasing plan when it would be approved. So it is not tied by phase to this plan, since it does not have a PDP approved with it. They still have to go through architecture and site design.
But it could, and if that first to the west gets built, they could come right back in and say, hey, we've got a plan, we have a user, and here's the PDP, and go through commission and council.
They could, and because it's kind of the donut hole of the larger, commission and council could just decide, I guess, where in that phasing plan it ultimately plugs in. Right now, they can't do anything on it because it doesn't have a PDP.
Okay. Commissioner Quinn?
I guess you've answered the question, but it says that one of the two hotels will be built in phase two. Does that mean the second one comes later as a future phase development based on market demand? Even though it's highlighted the whole site as phase two? And does that mean all of the multifamily on the west is phase two?
Through the chair, Commissioner Quinn, that is correct. That's as the applicant indicated, that one of the two hotels would occur under phase two.
I just feel like this diagram doesn't 100% support what we're hearing out loud.
Maybe the applicant, would be able to better, describe the intent of their phasing plan.
Okay.
Well, the applicant asked that question, Commissioner. Any other questions from Commission? Okay, Lauren, thank you. If the applicant would like to come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. Brendan Ray, 1850 North Central, here on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to try to get to the meat of the thing, the meat of the discussion tonight. But before doing so, there are a few things that I just want to reemphasize. What's on your screen now is the conceptual site plan, and I think it's important to note, as staff indicated, and let me just say we're extremely grateful to have worked with staff. The amount of discussions that have occurred on this property in recent times has been extensive, including, I believe we were 3 hours, possibly one afternoon, sitting in a conference room, trying to work out a design and a layout that staff would be comfortable supporting, trying to figure out the automotive uses and how they fit into the overall site. Certainly the location is important, but integrating that into a mixed-use development can be challenging, and staff really challenged us on it. And so spent time going through it and are pleased with the result of the layout of the site. And I think staff is as well with the recommendation. But as you can see on this slide, same land uses that have been approved for a while. Lauren did a great job walking through the changes and stuff. But one of the things that we spend so much time looking at it from 30,000 feet that we sometimes forget what's it going to look like as people walk and move through this development. And I think everyone's been positive on the design elements of it. These are the landscape and open space character, and you can see there's a lot that's going on with it. As we look, this is the monument signage that's going to take place on the development. Again, we think it's appropriate. The architectural theming, which Lauren talked about, and there's a number of belt and suspenders, including in 2022. Chair Human had some questions about administrative and design guidelines and stuff like that, that there were stipulations placed on it that have continued and carried through. That, as Lauren indicated, if there ever comes a point at which staff feels that we are not intending to develop this consistent with what we've represented in this development booklet, that no one ever gets a physical copy, Chair Human will remember getting physical copies of these many times. But it is something that as we go through and look at it, if there's ever anything that they don't feel we're doing, we got to come back. And so as we kind of get into it, and you can look and see and go through all of this stuff, and I can do it. But one of the things, kind of getting to the meat of the substance of what I want to talk about today, deals with a series of checks and balances, because as staff indicated, there have been some conditions that were placed on the property that we agreed to at the time, that affected and impacted the development. And so one of the things as we've gone through it, and I'm going to walk through it, is kind of what I think the chair expressed a concern of, is that multifamily gets built and then what else gets built. And then the other corollary thing that we've heard throughout the process is, well, once multifamily's in and nothing gets built, then the rest of the site's going to be multifamily. and we will not have the commercial uses. We will not have the automotive uses. We won't have a lot of things. And so one of the things that as we look at it from a conceptual site plan, kind of a check and balance as I refer to it, the site plan locks in where those uses are located. Where I'm showing multifamily is the only spot multifamily can be built. Same for commercial, same for the hotels. So that is locked in, again, as part of this development booklet. There are two conditions. Stipulation number one of the rezoning portion and stipulation number one of the PDP portion that requires substantial conformance with, again, this booklet and the exhibits that are in it. And so if I try to deviate anything from it, as you can see there at that last bullet point, I got to come back. I got to come back to you guys. I got to file a new application, and I've got to come back to the city council. So there is a check in place that already exists to prevent multifamily from spreading throughout the rest of the site as there has been a concern. There was a concern with the auto dealerships. None of us want it to be a used car dealership, right? And so staff, and working with staff, they came up with this condition. Again, condition number 5 of the rezoning. It says it's got to be a new dealership. And I know there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of things in talking about dealerships and this and that. There's some that have said there's no dealerships that can be located on this parcel. Well, that is absolutely false. We have, Greg has retained someone that is very familiar with the automotive industry, very familiar with the rules and regulations that the state places on the location of auto dealerships. And there are a dozen dealerships, new dealerships that can be located on this site today. There are 3 that have been rumored to want to locate. As far as I know, those 3 have not landed within proximity that would violate the state statute 10-mile radius. And so, again, there's a lot of belief that dealerships can't be located here. I'm here to tell you, and if Greg's expert was here, he would tell you that it's there. So we've got that check and balance. One of the meat of it is the development phasing. I appreciate, through the chair, Commissioner Quinn, your comment as well, that we look at it. And this is the development phasing. I've taken the liberty of highlighting it a little better so it's easier to see than a bunch of blue lines. And so as I walk through this, I will talk about the phasing. And phase 1, as most would expect, are the horizontal improvements. That's the improvements along Arizona Avenue, the improvements along Pecos Road, that internal loop road. And through discussions with one of the commissioners that's not here today, he requested that we include some additional infrastructure. And that is what is outlined in, highlighted in yellow, outlined in red on the commercial portion. So that is what's going to be built in phase 1, because as anyone knows, with development, I've got to get the horizontal improvements in before I can begin to go vertical. And so that's why phase 1 is specifically tied to the horizontal improvements. Phase 2, again, that's where horizontal and vertical improvements outlined in green. Again, that's the commercial out along Arizona Avenue. That's the multifamily on the west. And that is the hotels down on the south. Now, with respect to the question, is that one of the 2 hotels will go vertical within that phase. We will complete the horizontal improvements. So what will end up happening is it'll be a finished pad for that second hotel. That second hotel will not go vertical within that phase 2, which is why we've indicated it. And if there's another way to illustrate that through the chair, Commissioner Quinn, more than happy to figure it out. But the intention is, again, that the horizontal improvements for the entire hotel parcel will be constructed. One of those hotels will go vertical, and the other one will be a finished pad. Let me talk about the city council PDP, and that's something that we specifically put in it. And the reason that we did that, again, that was intended to be a check. That was a check on us because the site is entitled for multifamily today. We are continuing that multifamily development. And so multifamily property, especially in the city of Chandler, is very valuable. There are a number of people that have already expressed interest that they want to move forward on the second phase. This PDP parcel is what I'll call it. The multifamily on the west is under contract, and if I need to speak to that, I can. Those guys stand ready to go. They've been under contract for a year. But because of lending requirements that I'll get into in a little bit, we have been able to move forward. So it was very purposeful in intention that that PDP be restricted on there because of, again, the carrot for that and the value of that multifamily property, to where we've said we're going to put a check on it so that the commission, so that the council can look and see what other development has occurred within it. Where are you on your phase 2 improvements? And so that, again, gives the keys and the control ultimately back to the council to ensure that non-residential development is occurring on the property, because we can't move forward without council approval on that particular parcel. Again, just continuing on where it is, and this is a belt and suspenders approach, that little excerpt under the B phasing, that comes directly from the development booklet. Again, stipulation 1 from the rezone and PDP both talk about that. But additionally, and you can see that stip down there for the rezone, but you can see kind of exactly what I said. Those bullet points are in it. So not only do I have a phasing plan that locks it in, I've also got a development booklet, and I've got stipulations that all lock in what it is that I'm talking about. One of the things that I think is important to note as we look at it, there have been significant changes to the phasing plan since the last time. During that time, the first phase for the multifamily parcel would have included roughly 60,000 square feet. The final design of that building hadn't been done at the time of those 2 office buildings. And so you can see and compare what is happening is we are increasing the amount of non-residential that actually is going to be built in the same phase as the multifamily. And so that is an increase. But as we talk about this and look at it, really what we're talking about is a balance between government regulation and allowing the market. That's something that we've got to look at. And then we look at tenants and all of that stuff. We understand some of the concerns that were expressed the last time we went through, and we're working hard to address those concerns about what's going to be built and when it's going to be built. You can see there's a number of things that we've worked through construction documents at various points of completion since we received the approvals back in 2020, all without success on being able to move forward because of what I refer to as the tit for tat restrictions. As Mr. Mayo indicated, it kind of is unprecedented in the history of Chandler, where there has been that level of everything goes at the same time. Plans go in, construction commences, vertical commences, and certificates commences. And so we again think that there have been significant checks and balances as we look at it that we have placed in here that still gives the necessary government regulation, yet allows the market to be able to work under that regulation, whereas we haven't been able to up to this point. And so again, just to kind of sum up, when we look at it, questions about additional multifamily on the site, we've got the stipulation, substantial conformance to the booklet, we've got the site plan, and we've got additionally rezoning stip number 3, which identifies where the residential can be permitted, which is only on parcels 4 and 5. And again, any changes or introduction of a different use, I've got to come back through the process. Same thing with questions about phasing. As we look at it, we've got step 1, substantial conformance. We've got the phasing plan that I just walked through. I've got the language in the development booklet that talks about what must be built in each phase. And then step 4, that requires a separate PDP for that second multifamily parcel. So again, any changes, I'm back in front of you guys, I'm back in front of the city council. So when we look at it all, we believe that there is a sufficient system in place to ensure that the development can move forward. Because at the end of the day, no one wants a vacant piece of dirt. That's what we've heard as we've gone through the process. We don't want a vacant piece of dirt. Well, we've had a vacant piece of dirt, and even under the last approvals, even under the value of a multifamily parcel, we still find ourselves with a vacant piece of dirt. And so we would request this commission's recommendation for approval in accordance with staff's recommendation. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the applicant? I'm going to jump in. So I did like the line government regulation and versus the market. We're building out a city. We're finishing up the city right now, so things are dirt. A lot of things have been dirt for a long time, so I want to make sure that the right thing's done. Couple of questions for you in terms of the car dealerships for one. We just approved tonight the Toll Brothers project where Earnhardt's leaving the center part of the city. My understanding is that Volkswagen's pulling out at Baseline and Arizona Avenue. And it seems like most of the major dealerships are clustering, whether it's along I-10, Scottsdale, along the 101, Gilbert Road, and the 202, both on the Chandler side and as well as the Gilbert side. Why do you think this would be successful with just one or two dealerships on a corner?
Chair, as we look at it, there's a number of things. The site continues to have freeway visibility, which is always a good thing when we're talking about auto dealerships. You want the ability to drive by. This site situates itself between two other clusters, obviously in Chandler and Gilbert further to the east. And then if you go back over to I-10, over in that corridor, you've got a lot of dealerships that are represented over there. Yet there are still dealerships that are unrepresented in this corridor that know the demographics, they understand what's going on around the area, and see it as a viable location for dealerships to be located.
Okay. Are there any other questions from Commission?
I just have one question since we're talking about dealerships. So just so I'm clear, if the dealerships never come to fruition based upon market and other reasons, your client is prepared to come back before commission and propose some other type of use and go through the process again. Is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair, vice chair, yes, there are stipulations to that effect that we will have to go back through the process.
Another question for you in terms of the phasing on this. The multifamily, you say you have a tenant, you have an applicant or user. What happens that gets built in phase two, but the hotel doesn't happen and the retail doesn't happen? I mean, do we still have a piece of dirt? I mean, I look at this site as the last remaining site as the gateway into downtown. We just had a presentation from staff a few weeks ago about extending downtown south, north, east, and west. So I'm just kind of concerned about, I've been part of this project for a lot of years. I've supported it sometimes, I've voted against it sometimes, but I'm just kind of curious what happens. Do we end up with just a multifamily and that's it? We have the rest of its dirt?
Chair, as I said a little bit earlier, there is substantial, significant, any other adjective you'd like me to use for the value of multifamily property that is zoned within the city of Chandler. Those sites are few and far in between. And if you look and talk to the number of multifamily developers that I have the fortune to be able to talk to, they all tell me, how can we get into Chandler? How can we get into Gilbert? What can we do to be able to locate? Because it is a desirable place to live. And so that's why we had that PDP and stipulated and agreed to it and wrote in the book about it. I'm not going to stand up here and give a guarantee. We know how guarantees work and how they've worked under prior cases that have been before this group and before the city council. And so I will certainly not stand up here and give a guarantee. If I could, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be sipping Mai Tais on a beach, enjoying that, because I could predict with certainty where things would go and then bet accordingly. But that said, again, because of the desire and the need for housing, we know there's a housing shortage. We know that I think there was a presentation that staff made to the council in a work session a week or so ago, where they talked about the city of Chandler still needs housing units. And so because of the significant value placed on that, that's why we agreed to the PDP, so that there is a check in place. There is a balance in place. if you permit me 1 minute, I need to verify something with my client, but I might have something else to stiffen that PDP. So if you give me 1 minute, Chair.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things that we are willing to offer tonight that would be, if I may, Chair, that would be in addition to stipulation. There's the stipulation number, I think it's 4. The stipulation that requires that we come back for PDP approval. Staff's going to tell me off the top of my head after I bungled it a week ago on a different stipulation. That is stipulation number 2. Okay, so stipulation number 2, PDP stipulation number 2 reads: a separate preliminary development plan application shall be required for the proposed multifamily on parcel number 4. What we would, if it helps the commission tonight, what we would request is that we add a sentence after that that says the PDP application for parcel 4 cannot be filed until 75% of the non-residential uses in phase 2 have received a certificate of completion. So what that additionally does, in not only requiring a PDP, it puts a restriction on when I can file that PDP to begin with, that I can't even sniff filing that until I have a certificate of completion for 75% of what is in, of the non-residential uses within phase 2.
Let me ask you a question. You talk about housing needs. We know we have housing needs, and nobody's doubting that whole situation about getting multifamily. There's people will build in 2 seconds. The unfortunate part is there's not money for workforce. It's basically higher end stuff that we all know is fairly expensive. I'm just still concerned about 75% of what? The hotel, a little bit of retail up there. What, again, this is really being driven by multifamily, this parcel, correct? The whole thing?
Yeah, so if I may, Chair, kind of go back, and I know the font was really tiny, and I apologize for that. But when what we on the research, and if you want to see the 4th dash down, is that numerous retailers have expressed interest in this site because they see the need of having instant customers with the 800 units that have already been entitled on the site. And so there's a real desire for them to be able to move forward with that, but there's been some hesitation as the multifamily has been in limbo. And so there's a lot of people that want to see stuff move forward, but it's in some regards contingent on the multifamily moving forward.
Commissioner Kyle?
Yeah, just a comment. As I look at this, even hypothetically, if you put that multifamily as phase 4, there's no guarantee that that commercial moves forward in some fast manner. It could still sit there vacant for a number of years. So in the spirit of, bullet point number 4, I do believe that rooftops bring commercial, and that's why you've seen the city of Chandler all throughout it develop as multifamily residential, and everything's accumulate around it. So I don't see them as really connected, because there's nothing, even if this didn't move forward, there's nothing to say that that commercial development wouldn't happen 5-6 years from now, contingent on the future multifamily. So that's just my commentary on just the commercial development as it is. So.
Commissioner, Vice Chair.
Help me understand the 2 multifamily components in this latest proposal. The one on the west is 400 units, and the max that could be allowed per the zoning on parcel 4 that would come back through the PDP is also 400.
Yeah, through the chair, vice chair, Let me pull up my site plan really quick, and I can tell you definitively what it is. But if I remember from memory, there was like 300 and I think we were anticipating three. I think, yeah, we were 400 units on a max of 400 units on parcel 5 and a max of 400 units on parcel 4.
Which is what it's currently approved for as part of the mixed use
Through the
prior
chair,
PAD.
through the chair, vice chair, yes.
Okay. And then just to the chair's point earlier, when you talk about this new proposed 75% of phase 2 non-residential, do you see that as being the commercial uses, or would that in your mind also include the hotel? And the 75% would be based on square footage of buildings, or 75% of what?
Through the chair, vice chair, it would be 75% based on square footage, but based on where I know is again, I won't go back to the tiny font slide. I apologize, but there is a significant incentive for the hotel to move forward in that the current property owner has 3 daughters. Those daughters are going to operate, build the hotel because there are significant incentives for women-owned businesses, women-owned hoteliers. And so there's no small amount of money. It's not money that you'd find in your couch that the flag is throwing at that. So there's an incentive for that to move forward. Again, there has been considerable interest in the retail to the point at which my client is designed those building and is 60% along the way. And so everything's locked, ready to go because to borrow a field of dreams concept. If you build it, they will come. And so with the horizontal improvements that we're proposing in phase 1, with the multifamily that is to be built in phase 2, with the money that's being thrown to incentivize the hotel to come up, that is there, and the retail, I believe it will come. Arizona Avenue is a road of regional significance, considerable amount of traffic, and we all know those are kind of key things that help support commercial.
Can you throw up for us the size of the hotel and the retail in the corner in terms of, when you say 75%, you're using square footage? I'm really curious what that means. If you're saying that hotel is ready to go and the applicant's daughter is going to run it, that first one going up, what's the square footage of the hotel, and what would be 75%?
So great question, Chair. I thought you might ask that. So if I offered that up. So in terms of the square footage, the hotel is approximately 60,000 square feet.
Okay.
And the commercial that we've identified is approximately 15,000 square feet. It's a little greater than 15,000 as you add it up, but just in terms of round numbers. And so that gets us to 75,000 square feet of commercial, hotel and commercial. And if I remember the math that I did earlier today, 75% is roughly 56,000 square feet.
So basically, the hotel could get built and the retail wouldn't get built at this time. If you're using a 75% number, if the hotel would go up, then there was no assurance on that retail going up in the next 2-3 years. I guess market conditions. I know there's people that want to go there. We also have centers across the street and to the south that are not full. So anyway, I'm just kind of curious. So basically, the hotel would get built under that stipulation.
Under what we are proposing, yes. Okay. Now, if the commission would like us to consider something else, I can walk back to my client and see if.
I just wanted to clarify that, though.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Sure.
Good, Chair. I think it was mentioned on the tiny text slide that there was 60% for the retail sites with CDs completed. Which one of those pads on those retail sites are currently going through construction documentation?
Through the chair, Commissioner Schwartzer, let me ask my client. I think I know the answer, but let me confirm. Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Schwartzer, it is all of the retail buildings that are identified in the green. So that would be building 2B, is it 2 Bravo, 2 Charlie, 2 Dog, and 2 Echo.
Could you throw up, Brendan, that's a little bit so we can see. Okay, thank you.
If I could zoom in, Chair, I'd zoom in.
So I have a
Of
question.
those 4 buildings that are building 2, it looks like what, B, C, D, and E, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, Chair.
Are those all drive-throughs or are those all freestanding pads or what are they?
No, Chair, the buildings 2B and 2C, those are, I guess, what you would call inline buildings with the corner feature and all that stuff. Building 2D and 2E, that's in line with an end cap drive-through.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Vice Chair?
So Brennan, would your client consider 75% of the commercial retail and commit to that since you've already established that one of the 2 hotels will be constructed within phase 2 as part of this original proposal?
Yeah, so Chair, Vice Chair, just so I understand the question, it would be 75% of the 4 buildings that I mentioned. Yeah, let me check. Chair, Vice Chair, yes, that is acceptable. So what we would then suggest that little sentence be added on at the end of stipulation 2, if I remember right. I apologize, but it would say after that I've got to have a new PDP, that the PDP application for parcel 4 cannot be filed until 75% of the Arizona Avenue commercial, and we can tweak it. I'll work it with staff, but we certainly know the intention. But we would also add that the hotel as well, that one of those hotels, that be stipulated that I got to get the hotel and I got to get 75% of the commercial done before I can ever file anything on that second multifamily phase.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I feel very strongly that it is important that we keep in mind not only ultimate goals of the development of this site, but really keeping in mind how we're trying to help development to occur under market conditions. And I am very familiar with how that happens. And there are things that change that we have no control over. And so I do feel that the residential and even the hotel coming forward is a real good driver for the retail, and hopefully that'll translate into the future phase of retail as well. So I appreciate you working with us on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, or Vice Chair.
Just to clarify, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo are DD level drawings. The only thing left is construction document level drawings.
Yeah, through the Chair, Commissioner, they're about 60% along the way.
So you have completed DD level drawings, design development level drawings.
I understand. Let me verify that aspect of it. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any speaker cards. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Okay, if not, I'm going to close the floor. What's the commission's comments or pleasure?
Sure.
Vice Chair?
Sorry, I'm just trying to find my spot. All right, I'll move to approve the rezoning preliminary development plan PLH 24-0023, the downtown or the district downtown, with the modification to stipulation 2 of the PDP as outlined by the applicant's attorney during discussion.
I think city attorney, she's
we need
probably
to
gonna have to read.
restate
Is
it?
that good enough or probably needs to really be worded?
I think it's good how it was stated.
You're okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so with the addition to item 2 under the PDP, after the end of the first sentence where it says parcel 4, the next sentence would read, developer commits to having 75% of the non-residential commercial retail buildings to C, to D, to E, and to F. I'm sorry, to B, C, D, and E. Completed. Completed,
Plus the hotel,
plus the hotel,
one of the hotels.
plus one of the 2 hotels prior to application of the PDP as shown on parcel 4 for multifamily.
Second.
Just one point of clarification, completed meaning certificate of completion.
Construction completed.
Okay.
Okay.
Was that the intent?
Through the chair, vice chair, yes, it would be a certificate of completion.
Okay.
Perfect.
Please change those words in what I just said. Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? So before we go to the vote, I will be voting no on this project. I've been around this thing for so long and it's come back so many different iterations and I just don't feel comfortable this being the gateway to our city, whether, I just don't feel auto dealerships on this corner for one thing. And again, I've been through so many iterations on this parcel that whether this really happens, it's all being driven by the multifamily. I know that, and that's fine. But at the same time, I'm going to be voting no on this item. So with that,
Do we need a second?
I'm sorry.
Second.
Yeah, Charlotte had a second. You got a second. So, okay. With that, all those in favor of the project say aye.
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 Opposed? I vote no. So, okay. This motion goes on to council. We're just the recommending body to the city council. When does this go into council staff?
Chair Human, this item will be heard on the October 17th city council meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Any other members' comments, staff comment, anything from staff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have 2 announcements. First, I'd like to thank Ben Citicetis for his service to the city of Chandler. He will be leaving the city. His last day is on Friday. So we thank you for your time and being a part of this team. We will miss you. He's going to go to better weatherland in San Diego. So we're happy for him and wish him the best. And my other announcement is to welcome a new planner, associate planner, Alyssa Siebers. She comes from us after being an intern with the American Association of Governments. So we welcome her to our team as well.
So to Ben, good luck. San Diego is a cool place, but we'll miss you. So you might get bored with that weather too. It's so anyway, and welcome to our new planner as well and stuff. So any other comments from anybody? With that, we are adjourned.